OverDress is now officially starting with the release of the very first booster set. And with that, it's time for an old-fashioned tradition. So let's do a set review. Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another set review. It's been a hot minute since we did a specific set review on like the Clan Selection Plus ones. And yes, these videos won't be as long as I'm gonna split up these sets with each and every single nation getting its own video. But that said, it will probably be a much longer video than usual because the first set is quite big. And we immediately are going to cover the starter deck cards within each starter deck nation as well. So we have one big chunk of cards to go over. Which means we have a lot of interesting stuff with the new OverDress archetype, the new OverDress playstyle, as well as the Eugene deck that does things a little bit differently, but has still a big focus around retire. However, before we dive into the set review, if you're interested in any of these cards that we're going to talk about in this particular video, then you can go over to Parkage to grab yourself some product to get access to these particular cards. And you can use the discount code TIMELEAP5 to get 5% discount on your entire order for your OverDress products. Now, one more thing, if you haven't ordered your starter decks, then definitely try to order them from Parkage, as they currently have sold over 1,200 starter decks before OverDress even began. Now, I'm curious, are we able to push that number up to 1,500 starter decks? They have some nice deals for the starter decks, as well as a combo deal with a booster box of set 1. So if you haven't already pre-ordered your starter decks, then definitely order them via Parkage with the discount code TIMELEAP5. Now, with that part out of the way, let's jump straight into this set review itself. Now, it's been a while that we did an official traditional set review, so what we of course always have been doing is we start off with the triggers. Now, this is a bit interesting because we've got the 4 triggers from the starter deck as well as the 4 triggers from the main set. But 7 of those 8 triggers are going to be a solid 3-star card because they are just generic triggers, which gives us more options to actually play around with our trigger lineup. Now, the 8th trigger is actually the second heal trigger, and in this case that is the heal trigger from the set. That is White Light Dragon Parasolus, and that is for me sadly a 1-star because we already have the heal trigger from the starter deck and we cannot run more than 4, so there's no official purpose outside of just the name and the artwork to actually have this heal trigger. So that is the reason why it's sadly a 1-star for me. Now, outside of the triggers, we also have the starters, and the starter from the starter deck is Sunrise Egg, and the starters have the new ability, although when this unit is rode upon, if you went second, draw a card. Now, this particular skill on the starter is an okay skill. It's a 3-star card. It's definitely weaker than the V-Series starters in every aspect, because the V-Series starters will just draw you a card in every situation, and if you went second, you also get the shield ticket on top of that, so you get 1 card less in every situation with these new starters. Now, that said, we also have a second starter in the set itself, which is Double Gun of Duststorm Bart, and Bart is going to be a 1-star for me because, again, it's just like the heal trigger. We already got the starter from the starter deck. Is there an actual reason to have another copy of this starter Not really. Now, another card that in my opinion is also going to be a 1-star is the vanilla of the nation, which is this great one, Iron Ball Dragon Enki Bowler. And Enki Bowler has no ability, and it has also no divining stats. His power and shield is the same as any other grade 1 with a skill, so this literally has no reason to exist in my opinion. So that's why it's a 1-star. That could definitely be a 0-star if I was given 0 stars to certain cards. Now, with the vanilla and the starters out of the way, we have 2 more generic topics to go over, and one of those things are the PGs. And we've got the generic PG, which is Escort Stealth Dragon Hayashi Kaze, and Hayashi Kaze is just the generic PG that has no extra specialty to it. So this is for me a 3-star card. Like PGs, they fulfill their function and they're nice to have in just those pinchy situations. So fine. But then we've got the newly upgraded PGs, which are also great ones, which for Dragon Empire is Twin Buckler Dragon, which has the unique skill, although when this unit is put on the Guardian Circle, choose one of your units and it cannot be hit until the end of the battle. If your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand and discard it. So this has the opportunity to be a 1-card guard if your hand is running low on cards, which is actually really great because that means in those very nasty situations at the end game scenarios where your hand is really low and you have PGs in your hand, you can still effectively guard with them, and even if your last 2 cards are 2 PGs, you can both use them if you're running this great 1 PG. Now, for me, it's going to be a 4-star, and the reason why this is a 4-star and not a 5-star like we had with the Draw PGs in the V series is because this effect is nice, but it doesn't come up as often as you think. It's a nice addition to the PG, but in a lot of cases, it functions just like the normal PG, and it's just maybe for 10% of the scenarios where you actually get that free card out of it, which is still nice, but you're not guaranteeing yourself the value at all times. That's why I think it's a 4-star card, just to have that extra bonus effect from time to time. But then we get to the unique Dragon Empire Overtrigger, and this is where things get a lot more spicy, because we have Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Drakveda. And Drakveda has the unique effect, choose one of your Vanguards and stand it. It is a free Vanguard restander. This, to me, is a solid 5-star card in terms of Overtrigger, in terms of how Overtriggers goes. Because this card is good in every situation. Even if you hit it on your very first turn, you still get another attack off and you still get another plus because you have another drive check that you get for free. Of course, the longer the game progresses and you enter your great free turns, it becomes a lot better because you then get 2 twin drives a single turn, and usually your great frees are a lot stronger, so you get more value out of the restand itself. But because it's still good in the early game and it doesn't really matter what type of scenario, you always get value out of it, is the reason why I think it's a solid 5-star card. There is no actual bad situation to drive check it, because you always get value out of it, unlike the vanilla one that gives 2 units 100 million power, but if you don't have the other unit on the board, it actually does nothing. So for me, it's a really good card. But that said, we can finally go over to the cards with actual skills, and we're gonna start off with just the generic support cards. And we start that off with this great one, which is Extreme Dragon, Fellowship Hazard. And Fellowship Hazard has the ability, Auto Rigor Circle, when this unit boosts, this unit gets power plus 2k until the end of turn. It's a 10k booster. Now, in most cases, they are kind of lackluster or underwhelming because it doesn't really do that much, but for Dragon Empire, I think it's a solid 3-star card. The reason for it is because the Eugene deck can utilize or use all the extra power it can get to up the numbers on the rearguard columns, but more importantly, this is perfect for the Verena variant of the Dragon Empire deck, because that deck is all around early aggression, and having a 10k booster actually allows you to be way more aggressive in the early game, because you can make 20k columns where your opponent is still at grade 2s, and it can turn your Verena Valientes in even better magic numbers, and it's also a nice booster behind your Chakravarti Divine Dragon Nirvana, as it then becomes a 33, 43, 53k attacker that pushes for a lot of pressure. So for me, this is a really solid card for Dragon Empire and might even stay a little while in the deck even with future support. Now for one booster attacker, we go to an actual attacker in the likes of this grade 2 Stealth Rogue of Iron Blade, Orshikuni. And Orshikuni has the ability Auto Rearguard Circle. When his unit attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rearguards, this unit gets power plus 5k until the end of the battle. So 15k attacker in a lot of scenarios, because in the early game your opponent probably won't call as much units, and in the mid to late game, depending on your playstyle or your deck variant, you could potentially retire the units and then still forcefully activate this skill. As a 15k attacker, it can become a nice 23k column with an 8k booster behind it, thus making very good magic numbers even in the early game, which is really solid. Now for me, this is going to be a okay 3-star card, because as of the aforementioned reasons, the only issue is, of course, it cannot be utilized in every single variant, because if you don't have the retire options in your deck and your opponent starts to call units to the field, then at some points this ability will shut off and it becomes a vanilla unit, and that's it's kind of annoying then. Now for the next grade 2, we have Drag Raider Zavar, and this is a Guardian unit because we have auto, when this unit intercepts, costs Soulless 1, and this unit gets shield plus 5k until the end of the battle. For me, this is a 1-star card because I usually don't like these particular skills that only give you shield value and then proceed to give you minor shield value for no actual advantage. Like gaining 5k shield is fine, But if it then also forces you to intercept with it, meaning you need to call it and it needs to be one of your aggressive cards, but it doesn't gain power, so it's kind of like Luster. And because it needs to intercept, it's also vulnerable against your opponent. It can just ram into it, or they can use a control skill to remove it from the field, thus negating any value you would get out of it. And on top of that, because you're already running this risk, you also need to pay a Soul Blast for it. That's not worth it in my mind, if I'm gonna be honest. So for me, this is gonna be a 1-star card. Now, another grade 2 that we've got is Stealth Rogue of Strife Fudamaru. And Fudamaru has the ability Auto Rigid Circle. When its unit attack hits, discard a card from your hand and draw a card. So this is basically a cycle effect. And cycle effects are usually pretty fine. But in this particular case, I will only give this card a 2-star rating for 2 specific reasons. It's behind an unhit effect, which is kind of annoying because your opponent can decide if you get the cycle or not. Granted, it can hit into a rearguard and still activate, but still your opponent has more agency about it, and it's a pretty weak attacker, so it's not hard to guard as it is. And on top of it, it's a discard that then draws, meaning you cycle blindly into the card, so if you at least could draw first, you could discard the better options, but now you need to discard first before you learn what you actually are drawing into, which could potentially cannot fix your hand, or maybe worse in the situation that you already find yourself into. So for me, it's, for those reasons, a 2-star card. Now next we have yet another grade 2, which is Drag Ritter All Wallet. And All Wallet has the ability, although when this unit is placed in the Rigid Circle, cost, counts +1, and soul +1, and choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rearguards and retire it. Now, this is a retire effect. I think one of the first that we've seen in this video so far, but it's gonna be a 2-star card for me. The reason for it is that it's a bit overcosted, Counterblast Soul Blast to retire 1, it's not that great, but on top of that, it can only hit a grade 2 or greater. So it's also limited to your options, and that means you cannot get rid of their grade 1s or their boosters or whatever, and in some cases, those grade 1s are pivotal for their strategies. Think about the Magnolia deck with their back row attackers, or if you're up against Barra Magnus, they have the grade 1, which gets plus 10k power, which is one of their strongest attackers. You want to get rid of those. This card doesn't allow you to get rid of those cards, so for that, it's only a 2-star card in my book. Now next up we've got a grade 3 from the starter deck, which is Fire/Dragon Inferno Sword. And Inferno Sword has the amazing ability of continuous rearguard circle. During the battle this unit attacks, this unit gets power plus 2k. So it's a grade 3 that turns itself into a 15k attacker. It has all the upsides of a grade 2 15k attacker with the magic numbers you can create and the aggression and whatnot, but it's on a grade 3, which to me is a solid 1-star card. Like, you're not gonna play this card in any situation. It is outright terrible. Now, a card that isn't terrible and might see a lot of play and has some future potential is this grade 1 Stealth Dragon Tensha stat. And Tensha stat has the ability Auto Rearguard Circle. When the attack this unit boosted hits, cost, count +1, and retire this unit, choose one of your Vanguards, search attack for up to 1 card with the same card name as that unit, reveal it, and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. This is basically a Persona Right Searcher, which is pretty ridiculous because that translates into a draw and 10k power to the front row, which is kind of ridiculous if you think about it. That costs you a counterblast and a discard of this unit because you retired afterwards. And in the meantime, you also has the value of it boosting behind your Vanguard for maybe a turn, maybe multiple turns. So overall, this is a really solid card and can see a lot of future potential because we don't know what type of future support Dragon Empire is going to get, how much impact the Persona Right ability will have on that, and if we get units that have skills that are locked behind the Persona Right clause, as we already seen it in other nations. If that's gonna be the case, then this card becomes better and better and better with more support. So with it in mind, I think it's a solid 4-star card. The biggest hinders to this card right now is the counterblast cost. A lot of costs within Dragon Empire cost counterblast, so it's harder to facilitate this ability in every single turn, and your opponent can still have some control over if you're able to resolve this effect or not, disregarding the unhit in the first place. So with that in mind, I think it's a solid 4-star card. That rounds up the generic support, which means we're gonna dive into one of the main archetypes of the set, and we're going to start off with the set archetype. That is, of course, the Eugene variant. And we're starting off with the right line, and for the right line we have the Grade 1, which is Gunning of Duststorm Nigel. And Nigel has the ability, although when this unit is rode upon by Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Rendor, Soul Charge 1. It's fine, it builds up soul, which you're gonna use with Eugene, so it gives you the resource and sets up for your future plays. It's alright. Then we also have Auto Rearguard Circle. When your opponent's rearguard is retired during your main phase, cost Counterblast 1 and retire this unit. Choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. So this ability is kind of okay. It has some annoying restrictions that you already need to retire something, and then you are trading a 1-for-1, which also costs you a Counterblast. On first glance, this doesn't look all that great, but in combination with Eugene, you can actually get some more value out of it. And with that thought in mind, I think it's an alright 3-star card. Like, it's not great, it's alright. Maybe a 2-star card to some extent, but I think it fulfills the purpose of the deck as where it plays into, so it has a role to play. Now, followed up of the Grade 1, we have the Grade 2 of the right line, which is Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Rendor. And Rendor has the ability, although when this unit is rode upon by Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene, draw a card, choose up to 1 card from your drop zone and put it into your soul. Now this, as a right line effect, is actually pretty good because it's a free draw and it gives you a soul, which you always will have because you're discarding for the right deck, so you can immediately put something into the soul. So overall, 1 soul and 1 draw for free, I think it's pretty good. But then we also have Auto Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When its unit attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rearguards, cost Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 1, and this unit gets power plus 5 until the end of the battle. Now overall, this ability is not that great, because Counterblast 1 to gain 5k power and a Soul Charge, it's kind of whatever, but the Soul Charge fulfills a role with Eugene, so there's value to be had in that aspect. But the restriction of your opponent needing less rearguards can also backfire a bit. That said, because also Vanguard Circle skill, it's very much likely that you can activate this on your Vanguard turn 2 play. So if you have an 8k booster behind it, it's a 23k column, which means you can call something to the side column and still attack twice, even if your opponent gets a defensive trigger. So there are some early aggressive options here. So with that thought in mind, I think it's an alright card, and I think it deserves a 3-star rating. Like, the value is there, but I don't think it's gonna be as much run as a rearguard unit, because you probably don't want to waste your Counterblast for just a soul and 5k power, especially if you can get your hands on better beaters. I can definitely see this card maybe run right now, as there's not a lot of options, but it can definitely be replaced as a main deck attacker with more support further down the line. So for now, I think it's an okay 3-star card. But now we get to the main boss unit, the main grade 3 of the Eugene deck, which is of course Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene himself. And Eugene has the ability, act on Vanguard Circle, once a turn, cost rest 2 rearguards, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, retire it, and this unit gets power plus 10k until the end of turn. Now this is the effect that I was referring to with the Grade 1, that you have the interaction, because you can arrest the Grade 1, with this ability you will snipe something, thus you activate the Grade 1, and now you can retire the arrested Grade 1 to snipe something else. And retiring a unit that's already at rest is less of wasted potential because you couldn't boost with it anyways, so might as well get more value out of it. And that is the interaction between the Grade 1 and Eugene, as that is how you are generating value over time. But then we also have the ability, act on Vanguard Circle, once a turn, if your opponent's rearguards was retired this turn, cost Soul Blast 5, look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the number of your opponent's open rearguard circle, choose any number of units cards from among them, call them to the rearguard circle, and put the rest into your soul. This might sound crazy, but to me, honestly, Eugene feels like a 3-star card. And the reason for that is that it's rest 2 rearguards to snipe something to gain 10k power is alright, there's value to be had there, because you basically can easily generate 10k power into your Vanguard circle, but if you don't have ways to either get more value out of those rested units, or be able to call a new field on top over those units, you're wasting more offensive options in the process. And at the same time, his Soul Blast 5 to check top X from your deck to call units to the field is nice and all, it allows you to replenish the board, but at the same time, you aren't guaranteeing yourself value out of those cards, because it can easily be puny attackers or a lot of triggers, and you're forced to put them into the soul, and you're not gaining a lot of value there. It's pretty RNG reliant, and currently, in my opinion, the rear guards aren't there for Eugene. He doesn't have the support that allows the card actually be good. And because this card is heavily rearguard reliant and those rearguards don't exist in my opinion, I think Eugene right now feels very much like a 3-star card. Like, this is a boss unit of your deck. As a boss unit, he doesn't really do a lot. It's the rearguards that need to carry the deck, and he doesn't support those rearguards at the slightest, in my honest opinion. So, for what I've seen right now, I think I can only give Eugene a 3-star rating. I can see it becoming stronger, the deck as a whole, because it gets better rearguards. But I don't really believe that it's then Eugene that will carry the deck. It's that the deck is being carried by those new, more powerful rearguards. So, yeah, sadly, it's going to be a 3-star card for me. Now, talking about those rearguards that do some type of interaction with Eugene, we have this grade 2 Drag Raider Dabax, and it has the ability Auto. When this unit is placed in a rearguard circle, costs Counterblast 2, Soldiers 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. Now, I wasn't already a fan of the grade 2 from the right line, which cost a Counterblast to gain 5k power and to Soldiers 1. Now, Counterblasting 2 to gain 1 soul and retiring something of your opponent's side of the field is also not great, and it's behind an on-place effect. So, yeah, this is really bad. For me, this is going to be a 1-star. Like, I do not like this effect in the slightest. Yes, you can say Eugene doesn't use a lot of Counterblast, so you can run the card, but that doesn't excuse for the fact that the card is bad. Like, the fact that a deck can play a bad card doesn't make the bad card suddenly better. It just means that the deck doesn't have better options, thus also lowering the value of the deck in the process. So, for me, it's a 1-star card. I do not like this at all. Now, next up, we've got a grade 1 for Eugene, which honestly is actually pretty decent, as we've got Stealth Fiend Shiga Manago, and Shiga Manago has the ability Auto Rearguard Circle. When your opponent's rearguard is retired during your main phase, cost retire this unit, look at the top card of your deck, and you may call a unit from among them to the rearguard circle. If you do not, put the rest into your soul. So this card is basically similar to the grade 1 of the right line that interacts with Eugene's first ability, as you can rest her and then still get value of it. And at the same time, she has a skill that's similar to the Soul Blast 5 Superior Call effect, only in this case it's just the top card and it doesn't cost you soul. Now, to me, this is going to be a 3-star card. Like, it's synergized with the engine, but the issue with this card is, of course, it's RNG, and you aren't guaranteeing yourself value of the top card. Like, it can easily be a very, very good unit, but at the same time, it could also be a PG of a heal trigger or your over trigger, and then you're probably going to put it into the soul, as putting it onto the field doesn't really help you all that much. So for me, it's going to be a 3-star card. Now, finally, we have one more support card for Eugene, which is actually pretty good because it helps the deck with more pressure, and that is their supporting grade 3, that is Charging Dragon Tri-Bash. And Tri-Bash has the ability Auto Rearguard Circle. When your Vanguard attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rearguards, cost, put this unit into your soul, choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets critical +1 until the end of the battle. So, this is basically a card that gives your Vanguard more crit pressure, and with the inherent 10k power that you can give Eugene, then suddenly Eugene will be a 23k double critical unit, which is on par that we see with Barrow Magnus, and we also have Persona Ride or a booster behind it, so it can suddenly give more value. At the same time, because this card put itself into the soul, it facilitates or supplements the soul that's 5 costs for next turn, and it also means that if you check the top cards of your deck and you already see 2 grade 2s that you want to put into the front row, you can just put this thing into the back row, because you can still activate the skill the moment your Vanguard attacks, and it then will move to the soul, so you get that crit for free. So, with that thought in mind, I think it's an alright 3-star card. Like, it helps the deck with extra pressure that it needs, and it also means that you either have a much higher chance to have a solid attacker, because it can be attacker, and in the case where you low roll a bit and you have too many grade 3s and grade 2s in your top X, then you can just slam it down to the back row and you can still get value of the unit. And this is basically the type of skill that I want to see more in the future, because these type of skills will make the Eugene deck way better, as that lowers the inconsistency part, as this means that no matter what you check on the top X card of your deck, you can get value out of those cards and you're not just forced to put them all into the soul. And that also means that we're done with the first archetype, so we head into the second archetype for Dragon Empire, which is my favorite, OverDress archetype. And instead of going over the right line, we're gonna start off with the OverDress units itself, because that will explain the right line and the interactions between those units, as they all interact with the OverDress Nirvana cards. And Of course, to start it all off, we're gonna start off with Trickstar. And Trickstar is a grade 0 that has the ability, continues a regular circle. This unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects. Now this, to me, might sound crazy, is a 5-star card. The reason why this is a 5-star card is because this card enables the entire archetype and the entire deck, because every single card functions with this card, and a lot of the interactions are around this card, because we have searches for this card, we have resurrect abilities for this card, we have all kinds of crazy things that interact with Trickstar itself, and you're gonna see that with every subsequent card that we're gonna cover starting from this point onward. So for me, this is a solid 5-star card. Yes, the ability is kind of alright, but at the same time, interesting enough, this type of skill can screw over multiple decks. Eugene, for example, needs to retire a unit in order to activate its abilities. If the OverDress player just slams down a Trickstar as the only unit onto the field, they cannot retire it, thus shutting down their entire engine, and they're basically screwed. Same goes with the whole Imprison deck. They cannot imprison Trickstar himself, so you can basically deny them their prison card because Trickstar cannot be chosen. So there are some interesting interactions with this card as well, so there are more to it than meets the eye. Now from Trickstar, we're gonna overdress into a new grade 2, which is Verena, and Verena has the overdress ability on top of Trickstar. Now for anybody that isn't familiar what overdress means, overdress basically means that you're gonna call this card on top of the Trickstar itself. So in this case, it's overdress Trickstar, so it calls on top of Trickstar. It could also be something else, depending on what is after the overdress keyword. And that means that the Trickstar is underneath the Verena, and then the Verena can gain extra abilities depending on what is written on the card. And in this case, Verena has the ability, on a regular circle, when this unit is in the overdress state, attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets power plus 10k until the end of battle, then cost Soul Blast 2, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So if you are able to overdress this on top of Trickstar, it's a 20k attacker, and if you want to, it can also retire something for 2 soul. Now for me, this is going to be a solid 3-star card. Like in terms of overdress, it's alright. Being a 20k attacker is nice for the early aggression because you can overdress on turn 2, as it's just function like normally calling a grade 2, and having a 20k beater on turn 2 is actually pretty good because that is a magic number against a 10k grade 2 Vanguard, so even defensive triggers won't stop this card. And having the extra retire is nice, but 2 soul is kind of overcosted. And keep in mind, if you overdress, the overdress mechanic itself is an inherent minus because you're not generating more cards on the field, you're just calling cards on top of each other. So even though on the first glance, it's a very powerful card, but keep in mind, it's also a discard to enable this. So that makes this card, in my opinion, go down to a 3-star rating. Now, the second Verena grade 2 variant that we've got is Verena Arcs. And Verena Arcs also has the overdress Trickstar clause, but its ability is, although when this unit is placed on a rearguard circle, if it overdress, cost, counterblast 1, draw 2 cards, and this unit gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. So if you're overdressing this unit, you can counterblast 1 to draw 2 cards, and it becomes a 15k attacker during that turn. This, in my opinion, is a solid 5-star card. Like, this fixed the issue of the overdress mechanic and the overdress deck, as it allows you to draw a significant amount of cards, thus negating the inherent minuses that you need to do to perform the overdress mechanic. So this is excellent, and it being a 15k attacker on turn 2 potentially, or turn 3, whatever, when you do this, makes it also pretty nice because it again makes a magic number for 23k. So overall, a solid 5-star card, and it will probably be a staple for the overdress mechanic for a long while, because drawing so many cards helps you to get consistent access to all your different overdress targets. So I am very happy that we got this card right out of the gate with set 1. But of course, it doesn't stop with the grade 2 variants, because we also have a grade 3 variant, which is Verena Valiente. And Valiente has the overdress clause, overdress Trickstar, or grade 3 or less unit in the overdress state. So this means that he can overdress on top of any overdress unit as long as they are in the overdress state. So you can go Trickstar into Valiente, or you can go Trickstar into a Verena, and then into a Verena Valiente, and then also Verena Valiente into Verena Valiente, into Verena Valiente, into Verena Valiente, and you can keep stacking as you go, which is kind of crazy. The reason why you want to do that is because of its other ability, which is Continuous Overguard Circle. This unit gets power plus 5k for each of this unit's original dress. Original dress are basically the cards beneath the overdress unit. So for every time we overdress on top of a Valiente, it gains an extra 5k power. And that 5k power is passive during both players' turn. So it is a unit that's hard to get rid of with just normal attacks. You need to use a control skill to remove it from the field, which is kind of crazy to think about. But on top of that, Valiente also has the ability, Auto Overguard Circle, once a turn, when the attack of this unit in the overdress state hits, and it doesn't need specify Vanguard, cost counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand and stand this unit. It's a Dragonic Overlord on the rearguard circle with extra basic power that also stays during your opponent's turn, and it interacts with the overdress mechanic. Yeah, this for me is going to be a 5-star card. This card is ridiculous and it carries the deck a lot with the amount of pressure it generates, because seeing as this is a rearguard unit, it means your opponent is most likely going to take the Vanguard unit. And by taking the Vanguard attack, they are opening themselves for random criticals and potentially the overtrigger that then screws them over and gives them a very, very bad day. And if you think this card should be a 4-star card, and I can understand why, I thought so too, but during the livestream variant of this set review, and yes, I'm doing this set reviews a live version on Twitch from this point onward, so if you aren't following me on Twitch, go to twitch.tv/MrTimely and follow me there, because we're going to do this for every single set going forward. But during that live stream, we went back to the original Dragonic Overlord for the V-Series, and we saw that I gave that card a 4-star rating. If that card is a 4-star rating at the beginning of V, then this has to be a 5-star rating at the beginning of D. So, yeah, for me, this is going to be a 5-star card. Now, with the Verenas and the Overdress cards out of the way, it's now time to talk about the right line and see the consistency behind these cards. Because you might be a bit confused why these cards are rated as high, because the Overdress mechanic is kind of inconsistent that you need to draw into multiple cards and it minuses you. But these right line cards will then explain why that might not always be an issue. And we start off with the grade 1 of the right line, which is Blaze Maiden Reno. And Reno has the ability Auto. When this unit is rode upon by Blaze Maiden Ryu, search your deck for up to 1 Trickstar, call to the rearguard circle, and shuffle your deck. And it has the ability Continuous Overguard to rearguard circle. During the battle this unit attacked, this unit gets power plus 2k. So this is basically a way to always get 1 Trickstar available to you, which is crazy to think about, because this means you will always be able to overdress every single game at least once and maybe multiple times. You need to draw into your overdress targets, but even that wouldn't be a big of a problem, as you're going to see in a second here. Now, the 2k power isn't as significant as most other situations because it needs to be an attacker, so it doesn't become a booster, but there's still value behind her being a 10k attacker, because if you went second or first, whatever, and your opponent is at grade 2 and you start to attack, you can call this thing to the front row and it's a 10k attacker that still can hit into a grade 2. So it allows to turn your turn 2 plays still into very aggressive turns where you can attack at least twice, maybe thrice, and that's something you want to do with the Overdress deck, because the Overdress deck is a very high octane aggressive tempo deck where you basically want to win the game on turn 3 or on turn 4, because the longer the game progresses, the harder it will get for you to sustain all the value that you're putting out onto the board. But I'm not gonna lie, it's not the most amazing skill, but her being able to search a Trickstar, which is the most important card for your deck, I think it on its own deserves a 4-star rating, because don't forget, it's also a free search. Don't have to pay anything for it. So you might even say 5-star, but I want to be a bit lenient and go down to a 4-star rating. Now, in terms of the grade 2 right line, we have Blaze Maiden Ryu, which has the ability Auto. When this unit is rode upon by Chakrabarti Divine Dragon Nirvana, cost search your deck for up to 1 Verena, reveal it, and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. And it also has the ability Continuous on Vanguard to rearguard circle. During the battle this unit attack, this unit gets power plus 2k. Now, to me, this is going to be a solid 3-star card. Now, again, it has all the upsides to Reno, as it allows you to search for a Verena, and that means together with Reno, you will always be able to overdress every single game. Might not be the best type of overdress because the Verena is not the best target, but at least it allows you to overdress every single game. And That is the reason why this card is a 3-star card instead of a 4-star card, because the Verena that you search out isn't as impactful as the Trickster, and you need to pay a Soul Blast, so it does cost some resources. However, within that Soul Blast cost, there's suddenly the emergence of a new potential strategy, because you could run a Trickster as a starter, and thus Soul Blasting the Trickster and having the Trickster in the drop zone actually gives you more consistent access and more options to play with, and potentially more overdressed targets. But that becomes more clear as we're going to talk about Nirvana. But there is more playability behind this ability. Now, she as a 12k attacker doesn't really mean as much on the rearguard circles, because a 12k grade 2 doesn't really do as much. And that's also why she's a 3-star instead of a 4-star, because Reno, at the very least, as a 10k attacker, can actually accelerate or propel your aggressive play. That said, she as a 12k attacker on the Vanguard circle is actually really good, because she plus an 8k booster is 20k, and 20k against a 10k grade 2 is a magic number, thus promoting that early aggressive play even further, and that is on the Vanguard circle, which you always have access to, which is a very nice early game play. But that said, let's go for Nirvana and see why that play by Soul Blasting the Trickster from the Soul actually has some merit to it. And here we have the grade 3 of the right line, the main boss unit of the OverDress deck, Truck of Hearty, Divine Dragon, Nirvana. And Nirvana has the ability, act on Vanguard circle, once a turn, cost, discard a card from your hand, choose a grade 0 from your drop, and call to the rearguard circle. So this is what I was hinting towards with Soul Blasting Trickster, because Trickster is grade 0, thus being able to resurrect it from the drop zone next turn, or in this case this particular turn, because that effect activates the moment that you write Nirvana. So you write Nirvana, you activate the Soul Blast skill of the grade 2, Soul Blast Trickster, and then immediately discard a card from your hand and resurrect the Trickster onto the field. And because we already had a Trickstar search with the grade 1, we now have 2 Tricksters onto the field, and we can overdress 2 specific units onto the board and have an entire front row filled with overdress units. And that is actually a very powerful play because of the next ability of Nirvana, which is Auto and Vanguard Circle. When this unit attacks, costs Counterblast 1, and this unit and all of your units with Overdress ability get power plus 10k until the end of turn. So this ability allows you to get a lot of power for 1 Counterblast, because 1 Counterblast gives you 10k to the Vanguard, and if you have an Overdress unit, it also gives that another 10k. But if you did the play that I just said, or you have a second Trickster and another Overdress card in your hand, you give 10k to the entire front row for 1 Counterblast. Basically, you're forcing a front trigger at that point, which is actually a lot of good value behind one single Counterblast, if I'm gonna be very honest. And with that in mind, being able to empower all your Overdress targets, and we have things like Verena, Verena Arcs, and also Verena Valiente with the on-hit pressure, being able to empower those cards makes this card incredibly good. But on top of that, we have that consistency engine being able to resurrect Trickster turn after turn after turn. Even if our opponent keeps retiring our Overdress cards, we can keep resurrecting a Trickster onto the field and keep churning out more Overdress cards. Allows me to give this card, unsurprisingly, of course, 5 stars. This card will stay for a long while, because I definitely can see the value behind the fact that it all on its own alone can resurrect Trickster. But who knows, maybe that 10k power will even become better as the game progresses. But of course, we aren't done just yet, because we also have some support cards for Overdress, because we have a special order card for the Verena deck, as we have the grade 2 order Sunburst Evolution. And Sunburst Evolution has the ability, play this with cost, Counterblast 1, choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. Choose a Verena from your drop and put it into your hand. So basically, this card allows you to swap this card for a Verena for 1 Counterblast, and you give a unit plus 5k power, but it's kind of irrelevant. Now, to me, this is going to be a 2-star card. The reason for it is because it is not a lot of value to just change this card into Verena. Yes, it gives you more options to overdress, but keep in mind, this card can only work with the original Verena. And there is something about that original Verena that needs to be clear to understand why this card isn't as good as it is. The original Verena is slowly getting moved out of the deck. Yes, we're running maybe 4 copies of it right now. In some builds, I personally only run 2 of it. And the reason for it is that it's not the best target to go towards. Arcs is probably a lot better, and then we want to go into Valiente for way more pressure. So the original Verena is just there to get more pluses with the grade 2 right line because you can search it out. And that means there is no real reason to play this card, because the main reason why this card could potentially be good is because if you run 4 copies of Verena, the order cards are basically more copies of that Verena. That's what it is. But it seems we're not even running maximum copies of Verena. What's the point of actually running this order? You might as well then just run more copies of Verena. And on top of that, it costs a counterblast, but as we've seen so far, Nirvana costs a counterblast, Valiente costs a counterblast, Arctis costs a counterblast. We also have a potential Persona Right Searcher, which costs a counterblast. We use a lot of counterblast, and I do not think that this counterblast is anywhere near the value that any of those other cards can generate. So for me, this is going to be a 2-star card, as I personally wouldn't play this order card in my OverDress deck. Maybe you would, but this is my opinion on this part. And now finally we have one more support card for the OverDress deck, which is Stealth Dragon Hado Shugen, which has the ability, although when a unit is placed in a rearguard circle, if you have a unit in the OverDress state, cost count +1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. For me, it's a 1-star card, and the reason for that is because this effect is restricted to the OverDress deck. The OverDress deck ain't never gonna play this card. Like, again, a counterblast for a retire, the OverDress deck couldn't care less for the retire aspect, and the counterblast wasting for that is not worth it. That same counterblast could either give you a restanding unit that swings for 50k, or you can empower your entire front row for 10k, or you can search out your Persona Right from your deck, that then next turn gives you a 10k passive to the front row and draws you another card and generates your soul. If you compare this counterblast for just one retire with any of those effects, this is super underwhelming, and the fact that it also has a condition that you need to be in OverDress state with the unit is also kind of annoying. So yeah, this card, you're not gonna play it, and if you think about it, please don't. Now that we discussed those archetypes, let's go over the final 2 Blitz orders to get a glimpse in the new defensive strategies for Dragon Empire. And we start off with the grade 2 Blitz order card, which is Burn Bright Pure Prayers. And this Blitz order has the ability, if your damage zone has 3 or more cards, choose one of your units and it gets power plus 15k until the end of that battle. So it's a 15k shield that has a limit break free ability to it. Now, to me, this is going to be a 3-star card. Like, it's fine, it's not amazing, it's alright. Your opponent can somewhat play around it, but playing around limit break 3 is a lot harder than limit break 4. The only issue that I have with this card is that usually 15k shields have a lot of value in the early game because you can easily slam it down onto the board, and that is probably a no pass or a over trigger to pass, because if they just attack 10 to 10, this overcomes any normal trigger. But sadly, because it only activates when you have 3 or more damage, means it only starts to activate during the mid to late game when you're probably already both at grade 3. So for me, therefore, it's a fine 3-star card. And then finally, we have the generic order card that is Sunlight Punishment. And Sunlight Punishment has the ability, play this with cost, counterblast 1 or more cards, which basically means counterblast as many cards as you want from your damage zone. Choose one of your opponent's rearguards for each counterblast paid for this cost and retire it. So basically, this is a flexible field removal card. You can pay 2 counterblasts to retire 2, you can pay 1 counterblast to retire 1, or you can pay 5 counterblasts to retire 5 units. Now, overall, the value is kind of bad, because counterblast 1 and discard a card to retire, because you also need to discard the order, isn't great. The more and more you're gonna pay up with counterblast, the more you are distributing the discard cost over each and every single retire, thus making the value a bit better. But that means you're wasting 3, 4, 5 counterblasts in the process, and not every deck can facilitate that. I mean, it has Nirvana on the artwork, but Nirvana ain't gonna play this card. Like, as already explained, your counterblast is way too valuable for just wasting it on a retire effect. Now, that said, I do still want to give this order card 3 stars. The only reason why I'm giving it 3 stars is because it's a flexible card. We in Vanguard usually don't get cards with an effect cost equal X and then do something equal to X. This is something we see a lot in Magic, but in Vanguard, I think this is the first time that we ever see a card in the likes of this. And because of that, this card can actually become useful if we ever get a deck that use 0 counterblast and maybe can generate a lot of counterblast. So with that in mind, that's the reason I want to give this a 3-star card. It's a territory, it's unknown territory for Vanguard that might or might not actually work out, and I'm very curious if we're going to see more cards that synergize or work in this particular aspect. So I'm very curious if this is going to be a new design route that Bushiroad is going to take. And with that, we finally are done. We talked about all the cards for Dragon Empire from the starter deck as well as the main set. Yes, this video has been quite long, but what do you guess? We have about 40 cards to talk about as the set is over 120 cards, and then we also had the starter decks. So yeah, hopefully the other set reviews for the other nations won't be as long as this one, but who am I kidding? These videos usually are very long and we have more to go around. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of these new cards for Dragon Empire, or basically what do you think of the very first cards of Dragon Empire, as this is the beginning of Vanguard OverDress. A very exciting time with a lot of exciting stuff. But with that said, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/VanguardInsider. You guys are amazing. If you want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!